I like to think that part of my brand on YouTube is that I am routinely fashionably late to different things. SimCity 2013 is something I played earlier this year, despite it coming out in 2013 and people having their various opinions on that game. Banished is a game that I've started playing on the channel recently, which came out almost 10 years ago. I've been talking about playing Software Inc. again recently, which is a game that's been in early access for the better part of a decade. So fashionably late is very much me. And that's why, at least that's part of why, it's taken so long for me to get around to checking out these Cities Skylines II dev diaries and feature highlight videos that have gone out over the course of the last 13 weeks. That's part of the reason, because the other reason, the main reason, is that I sort of intentionally avoided these things so that I could get hands-on with the game myself, form my own opinions, and then come back to compare and contrast what I've experienced firsthand with what we see inside of these dev diaries. Obviously, there are still some things I can't talk about. There are more gameplay videos on the way from myself and other creators as well, but nonetheless, I think it'll be interesting to go through each and every one of the 13 dev diaries and feature highlights over the course of the next couple of weeks. It's not going to be 13 weeks, but it'll probably be about 2, maybe 3, depending on how quickly I get them done. But with all that said and done, let's go ahead and jump into the first feature highlight video and the first dev insights video, which covers roads and road tools.
The roads crisscrossing your city are more than a means of transport. By connecting citizens to their work, families, and communities, they are the veins and arteries of your city's beating heart.
Something that I love about this video is that it's instantly showing you things that look extremely complicated, but having played Cities Skylines 2 and now being able to talk about and show off that gameplay as I did in a recent video, which will be linked in the description by the way, we now know that building something like this intersection isn't actually all that complicated. The road building in this game is remarkably intuitive, and it lets you build something that looks super difficult and super in-depth in a matter of seconds without any mods. Whereas in Cities Skylines 1, you would have needed traffic manager, you would have needed node controller, you would have needed the intersection marking tool, and probably a few other things, different types of anarchy and things like that as well, to make an intersection like this that you can make in Cities Skylines 2 without any of that.
Every pathway you carve out shapes the routine every day and opens the door to the extraordinary events that define their lives. City building starts with roads.
Now, expanding on what I said previously about complicated intersections, this still frame here is actually a really good example of how roads work in Cities Skylines 2. Previously, you would connect the end of one road or a section of a road, a node on a road, to another section of road, but you can get a little bit more in depth with the sequel. Roads are broken down into their lanes. So if you have your different snapping options set up properly, you could, as they sort of do here, have a really smooth transition from, one road into another. You could have, for example, a 3-lane highway break off seamlessly into 2 lanes going one way and 1 lane going another way. And I think we actually get a look at that a little bit later in this video.
Roads allow people, goods, and services to move through your city, of course. And in Cities Skylines 2, all roads except for highways automatically carries water, electricity, and sewage lines. It's a shortcut that lets you focus on what you love about city building sooner. You'll construct and refine your road network using road tools. They're easy to learn and flexible, inviting you to follow your creative impulses.
Now, having pipes and power under the roads automatically is, I like to think, a bit of a love letter to SimCity 2013, which we did play through on the channel this year, which was actually a lot of fun. And I think with hindsight, was SimCity 2013 a bit of a letdown? Yes. Was it as bad as we all made it out to be? Maybe, but it was definitely fun. And I think there were a lot of great ideas in SimCity 2013 that, in all honesty, with all of the other dev diaries in mind that we're absolutely going to be covering, Cities Skylines, well, at least the sequel, has And actually, you know, some of the DLCs for City Skylines 1 as well, there's definitely been some ideas and inspiration taken from the likes of SimCity 2013. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't say that as a black mark against City Skylines DLCs or City Skylines 2. I think that's fantastic. I think it's smart to take things that were good and that work and just modernize them, update them, and make them better. So that's a good thing. And on the point of the pipes and the power under the roads, that's a good thing for me as well. It means I'm going to forget about it a lot less often than I did. Although, from experience, the pipes and the power are not underneath highways, and they don't go underneath bridges either. So you do still have some manual connections to make, but having your buildings automatically connect to that network when you place them is fantastic. Having that network just exist without you needing to do it manually is fantastic, especially for forgetful people like me.
Returning players will welcome upgrades to the road tools that introduce several of the most wished-for features. Other features are totally new. Use the road tools to create seamless city blocks in just 3 clicks.
I can't begin to tell you how many people, when this dev diary first came out, how many people tweeted me, tagged me on Discord, came into my stream chat, came into the YouTube comments, and were like, bro, they've made like a battery button in City Skylines 2. And I did see this. I mentioned recently that I'm just now sitting down to watch these dev diaries for the first time. And that is very true. I hadn't watched them before I sat down to record some gameplay of City Skylines 2. That was very deliberate as well. But I did know about this because so many people were excited and like, man, you can start your cities even quicker now because they're so symmetrical and boring that they've turned it into a single button in the sequel.
In no time, you'll lay long, beautiful stretches of road to link lively residential and industrial districts to your buzzing city center. Just like that, you'll thread traffic along wide, curving streets and elegant, elevated highways. You'll even add bridges and tunnels in only a few clicks.
So there's a lot to unpack in the last few seconds of footage. Obviously, what we're looking at right now is just a beautifully detailed bridge with a beautifully detailed city in the background. Whoever built this, I've got no idea who it was, but whoever built this definitely subscribes to my idea of hiding your crimes with just the most dense forest that you can possibly place. And I think this is a really good example of how forests can, I know this is completely off topic for road tools, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. Because a few people have pointed out that trees, when you place them, are small. They do grow in City Skylines 2. I assume that gets covered in a dev diary at some point. But this is an idea of what your little forested, wooded area can look like when your trees have grown. I also think this bridge is beautiful. It's an absolutely, absolutely beautiful asset. And I'm really keen to see what else we can do in terms of detailed, beautiful bridges. Because honestly, who doesn't love a big, beautiful bridge? All right. Who does? That abbreviation probably means something else on the internet, triple B, but who does not love a big, beautiful bridge?
Intersections have been overhauled in City Skylines 2. Placement rules are less restrictive, and you can use pre-made intersections on new and existing roads.
So finally, we can get back on topic and talk a little bit more about the roads themselves. And this still frame here is a perfect example of what I was talking about a little bit earlier on. On the left side, we have an example of a highway being split into a 2-lane road and a 1-lane road, but doing so seamlessly. That is a perfect example of how in-depth your control over roads can be. You can connect a 1-lane road to a single lane on a 2 or 3-lane road, and every intersection in this entire little highway interchange is just so smooth and perfect. It's not coming in at those horrible looking 45-degree plus angles that you would have in City Skylines 1 without the likes of, what was it, Network Multi-Tool, whatever mod it might be. All of these intersections are just perfectly smooth and curvy. And I mean, as we know, real cities have curves, despite what my gameplay might teach you. But I love this. I love just having more control over the roads that I can place. I love that I don't need to go and get all these different mods to do this kind of thing anymore. And this is good for console players as well. I don't know how much attention from YouTubers, from media in general is going on the console versions. I honestly haven't followed them myself, to be quite honest, but assuming that this kind of stuff works in the console versions as well, which I would assume it does, again, this means that on console as well, you can build amazing looking PC modded quality stuff without needing a PC and without needing stuff from the Steam Workshop. So this is a win for everybody. This levels the playing field a little bit. And honestly, if this is the jumping off point for mods in Cities Skylines 2, it's going to be wild to see what people can achieve.
You can also add roundabouts. Yep, they're here. From gentle suburban roundabouts to roaring multi-lane roundabouts, it's never been easier to engineer uninterrupted streams of traffic. That's because roads will be configured automatically, so vehicles can enter and exit the roundabout safely. Simply drop your preferred roundabout over an existing intersection and ta-da! A whole new way to move people, goods, and services through your city.
I've seen a few people asking in my YouTube comments, in other people's YouTube comments, on Reddit, on Twitter, and on Discord, whether or not you can still build the regular old types of roundabouts in Cities Skylines 2, and you absolutely can. You can still use one-way roads to just build a roundabout, but I love this as an option. I love that a lot of things, you know, we talked earlier about how grids have been turned into a single button. I love that roundabouts have been turned into a single button as well. And all through this video, we've seen here and there traffic behaving a little bit better than, you know, what we might be used to in Cities Skylines 1. They're using more than a single lane. So having that traffic AI, that traffic logic in the game with a dedicated roundabout button, I have to assume that roundabouts, I say I have to assume, I mean, we've played the game, so I can say that yes, roundabouts do perform quite nicely in Cities Skylines 2 when compared to Cities Skylines 1 without mods, which at this point, I'm going to stop saying without mods. Let's just assume that we're comparing, you know, apples to apples. I don't know. We're going to compare the two without mods. Obviously, if you throw Traffic Manager, network multi-tool, all of that stuff, all of that into Cities Skylines 1, you can get some amazingly efficient roundabouts, but we'll assume we're not doing that. If we're just comparing, you know, vanilla roundabouts in the first game to the second game knocks it out of the park. It's so much simpler to build them. They work amazingly. People use the different lanes, and we have some interesting lane markings as well. So roundabouts in Cities Skylines 2 are an absolute win.
Decide the direction of traffic and how it flows by placing traffic lights, crosswalks, and directional no-turn traffic signs and stop signs. Erect sound barriers and construct parking lots. That's another new feature in Cities Skyline 2. And for returning players, it means Christmas has come early.
So first off, I feel slightly targeted by that. I feel like I am, in fact, a parking lot enjoyer. So I appreciate that Christmas is coming early. And again, we've seen parking lots in action in my videos, in other people's videos as well. Parking lots in Cities Skylines 2 work really nicely. They work kind of similarly to how they, you know, appear visually in the first game, except there is actually a need in Cities Skylines 2 to provide parking for your people. So they not only serve a visual purpose of being a parking lot and having all of the cars in there, they also do, you know, make your people a little bit happier because they don't have to park in the street. They don't have to park far away if you've got parking relatively close to where they are. Now, that last little segment also talked about some traffic control options, such as no left turns, no right turns, enabling crosswalks, enabling traffic lights. That's all stuff that is completely possible within Cities Skylines 2, and it does go a long way to almost eliminating the need for something like Traffic Manager, which I feel like it's close. I feel like it's so close to doing that, but if Traffic Manager was to come to Cities Skylines 2 with, you know, the lane connectors and the timed traffic lights, I still think something like that is going to be a relatively essential mod for PC users. And I can understand why it's not in the game. That's a level of micromanagement and control that is probably a step too far for a city builder like this. I don't know of any city builder that would give you that level of control. So I totally get why it's not here. I totally understand that. It's totally fine. It would be it'd probably be a lot to expect that to be here. And again, that's kind of what mods are for. You know, you can customize your experience a little bit later, but those kinds of controls, you know, no left turns, no right turns, traffic lights on and off, crosswalks on and off, that is still a lot. That's still giving you the option to go in and micromanage every intersection and say that you don't want people crossing here. You do want traffic lights there. You do want, you know, 2 lanes going that way, but you don't really want people taking a left turn here. You'd rather they do it up further. It gives you options, and options are good.
You can even add decorative touches if you want to. They don't just make your city pretty, they can be useful too. So those trees you use to line sidewalks, add charm and reduce noise pollution. Of course, building a city is a process of exploration and experimentation. You'll try stuff out. Some of it you'll like, and some you won't. Want to change an existing road? Use the new Replace tool. It's like the old Upgrade tool, but with more freedom to refine your road network.
Now, if you paid attention just there, you will have once again seen an example of connecting a 1-lane road to a lane within a 3-lane road. And also with the way these types of things function when upgrading from 2 lanes to 3 lanes in the first place, you are essentially creating a way for traffic to move out into that lane a little bit earlier. It's no more sharp, stupid looking interchanges. It's so smooth. Everything just works the way it should, the way we've wanted it to for almost 9 years.
Change your mind about a road? Bulldoze tool to the rescue. Click, 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 and that road is a thing of the past. Road building is more intuitive and nuanced in Cities Skylines II, and every pathway has a far-reaching impact. Build your city's roads as a testament to your ambition and a promise to citizens that anything is possible.
And so that concludes the first feature highlights for Cities Skylines 2. There is, however, some developer insights that we're going to go into here in just a second, but I do want to take a moment just to talk a little bit about some of what we just saw, because there are some things that I didn't actually talk about that I probably should have talked about. And that's going to include things like the fact that you can just run roads through each other now. I don't know how well that was necessarily shown off in the feature highlight. I know it does come up in the developer highlight, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in depth when that comes around. But that is one of the most amazing features for road building in the sequel. That is also something that was present, as were some other things in SimCity 2013. But as we've already discussed, I don't think it's a bad thing to lift ideas from elsewhere, adapt them, expand upon them, and improve them for a more modern game, because SimCity 2013, by virtue of coming out in 2013, it is over 10 years old at this point. And so I think it's fair to say that anyone saying that, oh my God, they copied SimCity 2013 is maybe being a little bit dramatic. We've not really seen some of the stuff that that game did since that game did it. I think we're overdue someone looking at that and going, it wasn't all bad. There was some good there. Let's take that little bit from that game. Let's take that little bit from that game. Let's throw them in a blender, you know, add in that colossal order, that paradox seasoning, and, you know, blend it up into something new and delicious. And if it's not obvious, the food metaphors exist because I'm a little bit hungry. I just made some burritos that were amazing and I want another one. So we're gonna get through the rest of this video, and I'm gonna go have more burritos than I probably should. I'm trying to lose weight and work out, but it's going really badly because food is delicious, man.
So let's talk about road tools.
Yes, let's talk about road tools. And this right here is an example of what I was talking about with just running roads through each other. You don't need to go from left to the node and then continue the road with more clicks. You just click where you want it to start. You click where you want it to end. It will automatically build intersections on every road that it crosses over, so long as it's not a crazy, stupid angle or, you know, weird terrain differences and heights and all that good stuff. Basically, it's like I said, it just makes things so much easier, so much quicker. It's so much more intuitive, and I love it to bits.
All good? There? Good.
Amazing.
Ah, thank you. For City Skylines 2, we wanted to keep the experience familiar, but also we expanded the road tools from the ideas from the fans, and we also wanted to make road tools be more flexible for all of the users.
So I think it's fair to say that some, if not a lot, of the Developer Insights video itself will be retreading ground that the feature highlight video has already covered, just with more insights and more depth. But something we can see already just looking at the menu that's on screen, and that you will have seen in the gameplay videos for City Skylines 2 that have gone out, is that you do have those controls for traffic lights, for stop signs, for no right turns, no left turns, for crosswalks as well. But you can also, similar to how City Skylines 1 had the wide sidewalks added, you can widen the sidewalks and remove parking from a given street. You can add grass to the sides as well, which will also remove parking and also make people a little bit happier. You can add trees, you can add streetlights, and you can add sound barriers to highways. So what that does is it sort of consolidates things a little bit. You don't necessarily need to have all these different types of roads anymore. You don't need, you know, a 2-lane street with, you know, regular sidewalks, a 2-lane street with wide sidewalks, a 2-lane street with grass, a 2-lane street with grass and trees. You can just have a 2-lane street and then add the grass, add the wide sidewalk, add the trees, add the street lights. You don't need highways and then highways with sound barriers. You just have one category of highways and say, hey, I want this bit to have sound barriers. I don't want to have to demolish it and do a different type of road or replace it. I just have to click sound barriers and then click on the highway and boom, it has sound barriers.
There's so many nice things. One of them is that in City Skylines 1, when you try to build a road through a road, you had to stop at the road. But now you can just continue building through the road without stopping.
In the first game, it wasn't an option to go like through multiple roads at once. So now it's possible, so that you don't need to go like step by step, and you can save time and nerves.
Now, if that whole segment isn't proof that I haven't watched this video before sitting down to do this commentary, I don't know what is. They basically repeated everything I just said about what I know about roads in City Skylines already. But again, I don't think we can understate how important that feature is. It does make things so much simpler, so much more straightforward, and I absolutely adore it. So we'll keep going. We'll keep moving on and talking about different things here and there. But it is cool that you can essentially just go through as many different roads as you want. So if you want to, you know, push a new 6-lane avenue through a residential neighborhood, you can just you can just take those houses out as quick as you want, really. You can just get out of here. I don't care where you live. This is a road now. I don't care that you've got a family of 6. Move.
And be more creative with these new tools. I can show parallel mode. That's awesome. Okay, so now you can create this kind of roads where you have 2 different roads going together, and then it starts to create those 2 lines at the same time.
Man, I'm getting humbled by this Developer Insight video. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't know that parallel mode was a thing, and I'm really excited to go not only get my burritos that I talked about earlier, but get burritos and sit down to check out this mode a little bit and, you know, prep for gameplay video number 2, whenever that may be. This is huge. This means that, you know, something I used to like to do when I would start a new city is, instead of connecting a highway, not a highway, an avenue to the highway, I would just run a couple of one-way roads up and down and sort of make an avenue with obviously little tiny intersections and sections of road in between. This just makes that quicker. This also means that you can do, you know, huge sweeping highway sections with parallel roads. And if you're using the one-way sections, obviously this is another one of those things. Like, this is available in different mods, and now it's just in the game. And this wasn't even covered in the feature overview, the feature highlights thing. This was in Developer Insights. This would have been front page news That's amazing.
And if you choose this one-way type of road, it knows that the other road needs to go on other direction. So that's kind of cool.
That's amazing.
I remember I spent countless hours in City Skylines perfecting my road network and making my traffic flow as smooth as possible. So yeah, I'm happy to say that with all the new tools in City Skylines 2, like parallel road building, acceleration and merge lanes, sunken roads, with all those amazing tools, you can truly master the traffic engineering. So yeah, I would say that the road building is the most excited feature for me.
I sort of have to agree. I think the road building in City Skylines 2, just the level of control that you have over individual segments of road and the lanes within is huge. I know people have been talking about the traffic AI and the lane merging, and that's all fantastic. I think that all falls underneath the same umbrella of just generally being, you know, road building and all that good stuff. So I think the traffic simulation is just going to be really satisfying for people to get their hands on and play around with. I know it's been really satisfying for me to feel like my cities that I've built so far, and obviously, you know, I can't really talk too much about those, but the traffic management in those cities has been better than anything I've done in my almost 9 years with City Skylines. And I mean, even if you go and look at my current series on the channel of the first City Skylines, it's completely unmodded, and there's stuff in there that I didn't know years ago. Traffic is better in that series than it has been in others, but it's still terrible in a lot of places. Now, that's not to say that that it's the game that's holding me back. It's probably a fair amount of user error. It's a skill issue is what it is, but it's definitely possible. And from experience from, you know, this video, from these videos, and from what I've played and put out on YouTube so far, I think it's fair to say that my traffic flow on average will probably be higher in City Skylines 2. And I think that's in no small part thanks to the fact that traffic merges better. They use more lanes. We have little slip roads and better connections to all of our roads. So yeah, I'm hopeful for what I can do.
Snap, snap, snap. Oh, snap, yes, the snapping options. We kept the snapping options from City Skylines 1 and added some more snapping options.
Just to reiterate the point about snapping and the available snapping options, from left to right, we have snap to everything. We have snap to existing geometry. We have snap to zoning cell length. We have snap to 90-degree angles. We have snap to guidelines, and we have snap to zone grid. All of those are relatively self-explanatory. One of my favorites, honestly, is snap to buildings. It's, again, something that you will have probably seen in my gameplay, other people's gameplay. It's probably somewhere in these dev diaries and all that good stuff. But basically, it means something like a pedestrian path can be brushed right up alongside of any building. It lets you get a little bit tighter right up against the walls, and it just helps to essentially fill in any small gaps that you might have between your buildings. I absolutely adore it. It's something I used a lot around the cemetery that I built in my gameplay video, and I used it elsewhere as well around things like the elementary school. And it's just a fantastic little thing to have. I absolutely adore it.
So the player can snap one more. For highways, now you can add or decrease lanes. You can add the on and off ramps. That's also increased flexibility, which was not available in City Skylines 1. The elevation tool allows the player to build more advanced road networks. They can use the elevation tools to build cut and fill roads and also build roads on top of other roads.
And once again, we're looking at something that previously was really only possible thanks to mods in the first City Skylines. Building roads like this, it was possible. You could do it. It was just usually a pain to stack them like this without any major mods. And you could really only go so far as well when doing this. I kind of love this. I love the idea of just layering roads like this. It's giving me so many dumb ideas. I'm not really thinking of any real world applications for it right now, other than, you know, a way to kind of get a narrower footprint on a super urban highway. Say you want to push a highway through your city, but you don't want to take up, you know, however many tiles worth of space. You can just stack your lanes on top of each other, and that might be kind of cool to do. I think that's something I might experiment with at some point in one of my builds for sure. But it's also giving me ideas for like a return to Let's Build style content, which I've not done in a very long time. But I'm telling you right now, there's probably going to be another tiered city in the future in City Skylines 2, and I might try and do that before we even have any mods for the game. Really try and do it like I did the first time around with minimal mods. That was an experience, and this right here would be an interesting way to make that happen. I don't know. We might have to wait and see. Either way, stacked roads, super cool. I just love how it looks. I would love to see all of these moving as well. I think it would just be really satisfying, like one of those satisfying renders that you would see on like Instagram or in your YouTube shorts or your TikToks or whatever it is the kids are watching things on these days.
Grid mode allows the player to build city blocks in a very simple and easy manner. Instead of the upgrade tool, we now have the replace tool, which allows the player to more freely fine-tune their road network. With replace tool, you can add in the bus lanes or tram tracks straight to the roads. Players can use pedestrian streets to create more inner city feeling city centers. On pedestrian streets, only pedestrians can walk on them, but also certain city service vehicles can use them.
So there's a couple of things to unpack from what we just saw, and I want to start with the replace tool because it's kind of a blink and you'll miss it moment. But when it comes to that kind of tool, when it comes to anything that essentially changes the look of a road, you essentially can just click and drag across an entire segment of road, and it's not going to do anything to it until you release that click. And it's similar with the bulldozer tool as well. You can mark a whole bunch of different pieces of road to demolish all at once, and then when you let go of your mouse click, it'll just get rid of all of them. It's a little thing that it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's something that, going back to the first City Skylines, obviously functionally it's similar. You can just sort of click and move around with the bulldozer, and anything that it hits it'll get rid of. So you can go boom, 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 boom and get rid of a bunch of road segments, but then it plays that demolition noise a million times. We all know what that noise sounds like when you're bulldozing like 20 different road segments in quick succession. You don't need to do that anymore. And it seems that the upgrade tool applies sort of a similar bit of logic in that you just select the whole thing and boom, it's upgraded and you're good to go. And like I said, that applies to upgrades to the roads as well. So tram tracks, trees, sidewalks, grass, all that good stuff, sound barriers for highways. You just sort of drag it out, let go, and boom, all the sections that you highlighted now have stuff.
In City Skylines 2, we have so many more pre-made intersections available, and also using them is much more simpler than in City Skylines 1. Parking lots. I could say so many things about them. One of the cooler things in City Skylines 2 is that all of the citizens have to park their car somewhere. And that will in turn affect how the city will eventually form.
Now, before we talk about my babies, these parking lots, we're not really going to touch too much on the highway intersections because honestly, I haven't played around with those too much. But from a visual point of view, from a, oh, that looks really cool point of view, the highway intersections look really cool. And I'm excited to have more than there's 2, I think, in the base game for City Skylines. You've got the cloverleaf and the trumpet, I think. I might be missing one, but there's 2 or 3 in base game City Skylines. And I think for a lot of us, the first thing we ever went and downloaded from the workshop for the first game was oh, who was it? There were some people that made some amazing intersections really early on, and I can't remember their names. I know more recently in the last couple of years, it's largely been Yumble, who I think I've mentioned Yumble a couple of times on the channel. I know he did a City Skylines 2 video as well, so do go and check out Yumble, especially for some of the intersection tutorials and stuff that he does. He's a fantastically talented City Skylines player. But I'm just remembering, I'm just having a nostalgia trip right now about going to the workshop, you know, back in 2015. Oh God, I'm old. Back in 2015, 2016, and be like, man, there's no mods for this game yet, but when there are, it's going to be great. Either way, I'm going to download 100 different intersections that I'm never going to use because I never build highways. But now you don't need to do that. We're going to anyway, but you don't need to. And I've just realized that this entire section was supposed to be about the parking lots. Obviously, I've mentioned already that your Sims do need to have space to park their cars. That is important. And I just love that that's a thing. I love that something that was kind of a meme in City Skylines for the longest time is now a functional thing in City Skylines 2, because parking lots were also some of the first assets that I went and downloaded from the Steam Workshop. It was highway interchanges and parking lots for, I think, a lot of us way back in the day. And now look at my boy all grown up with parking lots in the sequel. Oh, I'm so proud.
Roundabouts.
In City Skylines 1? Nah, so you have to build them on your own just using roads. But in City Skylines 2, you can place the roundabout asset straight to the road segment, and that will create a roundabout in that road segment. We have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 different sizes.
Something that wasn't touched on just there with roundabouts that you might have noticed was that they do automatically get rid of the zoning in the corners around them. They don't have zoning on them themselves, which seems super obvious. And I mean, it is, and it does make sense. And it is now possible in City Skylines 1, thanks to the addition of the toggle zoning tool. But that was something that was kind of a pain in the first game. You would build a roundabout in a relatively urban space, and because you couldn't toggle zoning back in the day, either you had to find some way to disable the zoning on the roundabout, which was either changing it to a highway, but then you don't have sidewalks going around it, or using pedestrian paths to sort of block out the corners as well, which is a valid option. It's just nice that you don't have to do that. I just wanted to say, it's just nice that you don't automatically have zoning on your roundabouts anymore. You're not going to have like that one guy that refused to sell his house to the government for, you know, the roundabout. He's like, I live on the roundabout. I breathe the roundabout. You don't need to worry about that guy.
Road maintenance is improved upon City Skylines 1. Road maintenance vehicles travels across the roads and improve the condition of the roads that they travel upon. Players have a variety of new additional road options, such as adding or removing crosswalks, traffic lights, or control turn lanes. To help reduce noise pollution coming from roads and traffic, the players can add sunbarriers to highways or add trees to the city streets.
So once again, there's a decent amount to unpack from what we just saw. Some of it we've already talked about, so we'll sort of skirt over all of that. But we do probably have an opportunity here to talk about road maintenance depots and road maintenance in general. Road maintenance, obviously something that does sort of exist in City Skylines 1. I think it came with snowfall, and I'm pretty sure it was more to do with clearing the snow off the roads, or at least having the trucks go around with the illusion of clearing the snow off of the roads. I think it's sort of a similar idea in Cities Skylines 2, but obviously just improving the general condition of the roads will be good. You know, repair the roads, clear the snow, and clear up traffic accidents, which I don't think get touched upon in this video since it is nearly over, but we do have traffic accidents in City Skylines 2. And again, that is something we can talk about because it was shown off in my gameplay video. There was a guy that flew off a highway. There was no other car involved, and he was driving like a smart car looking thing. So I don't know what he was doing, probably having a rave, something like that. But you know, he was having a great time until he wasn't. Either way, road maintenance, another thing that seems to be actually needed this time, because from what I remember in Cities 1, I almost never build them unless it's just for aesthetic purposes, because the conditions of roads don't seem to degrade all that much unless you're playing in a snowfall map, which I don't think I've done in years. So it's going to be nice to kind of need this now.
thanks for watching. And remember, blah, blah, blah.
Oh man, I hate it when that happens. I can't begin to tell you how many times I've started a video for this channel and be like, hey, welcome back to City Skylines, that, and you just lose it and you start hitting your desk and punching your microphones and slamming the arms of your chair and you're like, I've done this for a decade, why can't I speak? It might just be a me thing, but it happens a lot. Anyway, that is the end of the Developer Insights video, which is exciting. It's very, very exciting. I think there's a lot to unpack there in general. I do think a lot of what was talked about is a little more obvious now because obviously, you know, the gameplay videos are out there. There are other developer videos ahead of this one. It is a little bit weird is what I'm getting at for me to be making this video now that all of the feature highlights and developer insights are out and now that I've played the game. But I like this. I'm liking sort of going back and even discovering things that I didn't know about, like the parallel roads tool being in the game. I didn't know that was a thing and I'm excited for it now. So this is going to be a way for me to learn about things I wasn't aware of. And it's also just going to be a way to sort of go, oh, there's that one thing, but the feature highlight and the developer insight is giving me more of an idea of what I can do with it. Such as, you know, roads being stacked on top of each other. I knew you could do that. I didn't know you could have 5 of them. So now I do. And that's very exciting. Now, what I want to know from you is out of everything shown in this video, in both the, you know, feature highlight and developer insight, what are you most excited about when it comes to roads in City Skylines? Now, for my answer to that question, I'm going to be straight up and say, I just love how smooth the roads can be. Don't get me wrong, parking lots are amazing, but I just love the fact that you can have these essentially seamless connections to your highways. One of my biggest pet peeves with City Skylines 1 was the fact that, you know, more often than not, your slip roads onto highways would have those weird angles, and so long as they weren't too sharp, not sharp, what's the word? I guess sharp. As long as you had a nice obtuse angle, you know, people could get around at speed. But if you were doing like 90-degree angles just because you had to, people would be a bit slow getting on there. It would slow up traffic on the highway, and it just never looked seamless the way it does in Cities Skylines 2. So that would be my pick for my favorite thing from this whole thing. But let me know what yours would be in the comments below. Either way, that's going to do us for this first whatever this is. I haven't come up with a title, or I don't know if there's going to be a title for this as a series. Whatever it is, thank you for watching it. I do appreciate you. And yeah, let's leave it there for today. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.